Today on the Big 3 and 30, the Rams trade for Trent McDuffie.
It's an absolute blockbuster trade.
While the Chiefs get a haul of picks in return.
There's more at stake, and it starts and ends with the fact that Trent McDuffie was an all-pro.
And the Patriots release Stefon Diggs.
The Patriots did not want to drag him along and informed him they're moving on.
This is the Big 3 and 30 NFL, the three biggest stories in the NFL from our local experts at the Locked On Podcast Network. We bring you the real story, why it matters, what's next, who wins the big game, and more, all in 30 minutes. The Big 3 and 30 NFL starts now. Thank you for making the Big 3 and 30 your first listen of the day. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com and win $300 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. The Rams and Chiefs made a blockbuster trade yesterday, with Kansas City sending corner Trent McDuffie to Los Angeles for the number 29 pick and three others. Locked On Rams host Doug McCain looks at what McDuffie brings to the defense.
It was reported by Adam Schefter and Tom Pelissero that the Rams are trading for Kansas City Chiefs all-pro cornerback Trent McDuffie. It's an absolute blockbuster trade. The terms of the deal, it was quite a haul to get him. The Rams are giving up one of their two first-round picks in this upcoming 2026 NFL draft, but it's not their highest selection at 13. It's their second pick in the first round at 29. Remember, the Rams had multiple first-round picks due to the trade that they made with the Atlanta Falcons on the draft last year when they traded into that first round to get James Pierce. The Rams, they didn't even make a first-round pick. They got Terrence Ferguson in the second round, so they're able to use some of that additional draft capital to fill a need this offseason. Along with that first-round pick, the Rams gave up their fifth and sixth round picks in this year's draft and a third-round pick in the 2027 NFL draft. So, yes, this was a haul. Yes, this wasn't as much as they gave to get Jalen Ramsey. Is Trent McDuffie the player that Ramsey was when the Rams acquired him? The answer is no, but this is still an all-pro cornerback. This is someone who was the 21st overall pick in the 2022 NFL draft out of Washington. He played and started 56 games in his four-year career so far. He was a part of that Chiefs run, playing in the Super Bowl last season. He had one interception. He had 7 pass breakups, 63 tackles, and 1 sack. He did play 13 games due to a knee injury that forced him to miss some time in his career. He has 3 interceptions and 34 pass breakups with 8 forced fumbles and 5.5 sacks. There is some talk that, yes, he does perform better in the slot than on the perimeter, but the bottom line is the Rams got an all-pro cornerback. And, yes, this is a classic example of people finally getting what they want, and then they're going to complain saying that Les Snead gave up too much to get him. And not only do you have to give the draft capital to get Trent McDuffie, well, you also have to get an extension done because he only has 1 more year left on that rookie contract. So you're going to have to pay him as well. But the bottom line is this was the biggest need. And you look at the 5th round pick and the 6th round pick. Do you really care too much about those? I mean, of course, if you're the Rams, you got Puka Nacua in the 5th round. And yes, there's certainly value in getting players that are on very affordable for 4 years, no doubt about that. But the Rams, they have resources, and they also have that 13th pick where if the guy that they want is not available, does Les Snead look to trade down to try to replenish those picks in some capacity? There's a world where that happens. I hope it doesn't. I hope that you make the offense absolutely unstoppable and you get a Mekhi Lemon or you get who knows? Could you get Sadiq out of Oregon if you want to go crazy with it? Do you add a Carnell Tate if he falls to you? Do you go on the defensive side? We saw Caleb Downs at Ohio State having some issues with his knee and the medicals there. Ruben Bain, the shorter arms, and whatever it may be, the knock on guys is if one of those formerly elite top-level prospects falls to the Rams, do they jump and get them? It remains to be seen. Here's the thing, though. Guys like Mansour and McCoy, guy at LSU, Tennessee, the guys that they were looking at the cornerback spot, one, they're not going to be there at 29. They weren't going to be there at 29. and they're also unproven NFL players. If Delaney and McCoy, if they were going to make a first-team All-Pro at some point, that would be really impressive. Would it happen in year one? It's unlikely, because you just never know with young players. There are no guarantees. If the Rams window wasn't where it was, I could understand the thought that, hey, we are going to be just a little bit patient. Maybe we're going to go the cost-controlled route and draft a cornerback. Here's the thing, though. We've seen first-round cornerback bust. It's not like it hasn't happened. Emmanuel Forbes is a good example. Is he a bust? Not really by the biggest terms. Has he been a disappointment? Has he performed like a first-round pick when he was selected by the Commanders? The answer is no. And if the Rams were to draft a cornerback and that cornerback performed like Emmanuel Forbes did for the Commanders when they picked him in the first round a couple years ago, well, guess what? The Rams would be in big trouble. The Rams likely wouldn't make a run at the Super Bowl. They needed proven talent at a position that was their most glaring need, and they acquired the very best cornerback that is going to get traded this offseason. And is he in the tier with Sauce Gardner where you would have to give multiple first-round picks? No, I don't think he is, but I certainly think that at his best, McDuffie is a top 5 cornerback. And last year, the Rams, they didn't have a top 50 cornerback as far as I'm concerned. And yes, guys played better at certain times, but they did not invest a lot at that position. And you look at the current roster, Darius Williams, he's a cut candidate. Emmanuel Forbes has to see if he's going to take that 5th-year option. And Josh Wallace is a guy that's in the slot. So you had to rebuild this cornerbacks room, and they did it with a player that you could say has the potential of being elite. So I think this was a move that on the surface level, I think the casual take is to say that it's an overpay. But on a deeper level, when you consider other things and considered that, hey, you're looking at this year to year with Matthew Stafford. I don't care if Matthew Stafford plays another 10 seasons. You still have to approach it like he's going to play one more season, because of the contract, because of the career, because of the injury history, because of the nature of being an NFL football player. Matthew Stafford is coming off an MVP season, and they have set it up where he's going to be year to year. And Matthew Stafford turns 39 next year. He's 38. So when you have a 38-year-old quarterback playing the best football of his career that might win another Super Bowl and ride off into the sunset, well, you had to get an experienced CB. And I look at free agency. There's no one out there. I mean, Jamel Dean, interesting, but there was no one out there that was, I think, worth the bag like Trent McDuffie has the potential to be worth. And I think this was the right decision. This was the move that was at the top of our Christmas list. If you watch my Dream Off Season episode for the Rams, I said you got to either trade for Trent McDuffie or sign a cornerback. And I was against drafting a quarterback with that 13th pick. And looks like there's a good chance that the Rams, unless they're watching Locked On Rams, because that's exactly what's happening. And I'm excited about it. If you saw today's episode, we spent time talking about the possibility of Trent McDuffie as an option and the connections that he does have with this Rams organization, and the fact that Jimmy Lake, who is one of his coaches at Washington, now has that position with the Rams where he was elevated. Hey, this is, I'm sure, something that was a factor. It's something that I'm sure was a factor in discussing, hey, let's go to him and see what he has to say about all this. But this move made just all the sense in the world. It really, truly did. And we talked about it this morning. McDuffie said a couple of years ago, he said in a video that's been kind of going viral a little bit, he was asked a couple of years ago at an event when he was speaking at a school event in August of 2025, if he could play for another team, who would that team be? And he said the Los Angeles Rams. He went to St. John Bosco High School. That's 15 miles away from SoFi Stadium. He said, if I could play for another team, I'd probably want to play close to my family. That'd probably be the LA Rams, so my family could come see me every single game. Pretty cool. So it makes a lot of sense. And like I said, the other layer, the Rams promoted Jimmy Lake from senior defensive assistant to passing game coordinator and defensive backs coach. They replaced Aubrey Pleasant with Jimmy Lake, and Lake, he coached him at Washington from 2014 to 2015. And McDuffie went on to play there from 2019 to 2021. And in 2019, Lake was the defensive coordinator at Washington. And in the final 2 seasons, he was there while he was there. So Lake had 2 different coaching stints at Washington, and one of them he was coaching McDuffie. So, hey, I'm pretty sure that Les Snead and Sean McVay consulted Jimmy Lake and said, hey, what are your thoughts on this guy? And I'm pretty sure that Jimmy Lake said, he's great. Let's go get him. And there's just a familiarity there too. So you look like they're going to hit the ground running and work well together. And this is just something that we saw from a million miles away. I mean, this was something that was really telegraphed by Les Snead during his media session a couple days ago. Les Snead was asked whether he might be in the market for an all-pro to add to the Rams secondary. And Les Snead said, quote, is there an all-pro corner that you could add? That could be nice, but if there's not an all-pro, is there a player out there that adds an edge based on what we're trying to accomplish? Well, guess what? McDuffie was a first-team all-pro in 2023 as a slot corner and was a second-team all-pro the following season. And Les Snead, who knows? Was he referring to McDuffie? Things can be very fluid, and they can happen rapidly in this league. And also, too, what we talked about today was what I tell you. I said it was going to cost your top first-round pick, but that they would be able to get him for that 29th pick and then some picks later. And the good news is you didn't have to completely empty the war chest to go out there and swing a deal.
Ever wanted to experience the NBA Finals live and in person? FanDuel is giving you the chance to turn that dream into a reality with their NBA sweepstakes. Here's how it works. Use your profit boost on an NBA future, and you'll automatically be entered for a shot to win an NBA Finals trip for 2. That's right, flights, tickets, the whole experience. If you're already looking at the board and thinking about which team can make a deep run, this is the perfect time to lock it in. Not only can your pick cash, but you could also go to the NBA Finals along with it. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Use your profit boost on an NBA future and get entered for your chance to win a trip to the NBA Finals. Play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA.
Welcome back to the Big 3 and 30 NFL. With the Rams getting an elite corner in the deal with the Chiefs, Kansas City keeps stocking up on cap space and draft picks. Locked On Chiefs hosts Ryan Tracy and Chris Clark go over their side of the deal.
Trent McDuffie, we told you about the possibilities here. We're going to talk about, what it was, the mechanics of it. And even though they didn't get the pick that I told you they should, they got more than it appears to be just by the numbers on this draft. Then what are the repercussions? What do the Chiefs have on this roster at the cornerback position? What do they have to work with and that they have to plan around? And then what are the draft options for this team at this position? How might it change what the draft philosophy is here, despite what Brett Veach has already told us this combine season? There's a lot to go over there. You can find more about it at all of our extra sites, all of our extra content. You can find Chris at KC Chiefs Corner. You can find me at NFL33.com, RGR Football, and RogueAPC.com, because now you want to go see who the best athletes are at the cornerback position, and I got you covered. We have been doing this together 9+ years, almost 10 at this point, and this is going to be a more exciting draft than maybe we've had the last couple of seasons, because now there's more at stake, and it starts and ends with the fact that Trent McDuffie was an all-pro, could play inside, could play outside, and I said on my really emotional side on RGR just yesterday that I didn't want him to do it. I wanted him to stick around because I believe in raising and investing the guys that you develop. And you could say Trent McDuffie was going to be a Pro Bowler anyway, but you made him that much better. So this really comes down to one thing for me, and I'm, as much as I recognize value, I would have preferred they'd been able to lower the salary or whatever and get him on this roster. It wasn't able to be done. I wish that it had, but how do you feel about why this happened and the details of what we found out after the fact about a coming extension for him?
There's no way that the Chiefs were ever making this deal, period. Look at their roster, look at what they do and how they value players. He is a fantastic corner. He's probably a top 5 corner, especially if you're talking slot. Don't know that I would say that he's probably top 5 if you include all corner positions. I think he is very good, but he's going to be demanding over $30 million a year, and the Chiefs can't afford to pay that. That's what this comes down to. If the Rams want to pay that, congratulations to them. Good luck with that. Not saying that it won't work out for him. It may work out for him, but Kansas City didn't have the money to do this. They weren't going to pay him. And I am sure that I will be having a little bit more to say about this on the squad. I know how they feel about this trade. And when I look at that, it's going to be it's going to be a situation where it's going to be a conversation of what can't he do? He has been exposed in certain ways. He doesn't have the length to be a number one, or he has the length to be a number one, but it's not top tier best corner in the NFL. Yes, he's made all pros. Congratulations on that. Patrick Mahomes has been an all pro. He gets paid number 15, around 15th in the NFL in AAV at the position at QB. Trent McDuffie's looking for number 1. I don't blame him. Congratulations for getting paid. No problem there, but you can't pay him number 1 money. Sorry.
You're paying Creed number 1 money. You're paying Trent, Trey. You're paying him 4. I think it's 4. You're paying George Karlaftis 9. Like, you have too many top 10 players, and Patrick Mahomes isn't even one of them. You have a great point there. It makes it difficult. And what we have seen from reports is that it is pushing to be the number 1 cornerback contract, period, over Sauce Gardner. So the fact that that's what you were staring at made this a foregone conclusion. Now, we shouldn't forget to mention that to go with this, as I told you 2 days ago, the Chiefs were still trying to shop Jawan Taylor. They were trying to pull off another trade, found no interest. So they did actually release him today. So he is officially coming off of the cap as well, which does help with the space. But this was the wheel and deal portion right here, right? The week after the combine. Now, what they got in compensation is probably the bigger conversation here.
Yeah, it is. And really quick, George Karlaftis is 14th in the NFL, so I don't feel as bad about that contract. Just throwing that out there. Nick Bolton is one of those other higher paid guys. But I also said this on X. The reality is you could pay your entire draft class and some free agents, several free agents, if not multiple, like maybe 5, with the money that you'd be paying Trent McDuffie. There's a reason they're doing this.
Yeah, and that's got to be. I thought I looked it up yesterday and Karlaftis was 9. Am I wrong, or is that just the guaranteed portion?
It might be the guaranteed portion, but when you're looking at total value, he is around 15th.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, so that's the discrepancy. But that's exactly what you're talking about, is that the ability to do more with less is really what it comes down to. And I think there's a couple of things that Brett Veach, when faced with this concept that you weren't going to get away from this trade, that you had to do this, what you got in return is what makes the most sense here. You did get a first-round pick, number 29. I did say 2 days ago that it should have been 13 if you're going to get value for what he's worth. But that was assuming, and I put in that scenario, that it would be 13 and a 5th or 13 and a swap of something later in the draft. In the end, the Chiefs get 29, still a first-round pick, obviously. They also get a 5th-round pick, a 6th-round pick, and most importantly, they get a top 100 in next year's draft, which by all accounts right now is to be much, much better and much deeper than this particular draft is going to be. So in the end, he pulled off value that came out around 20, which was a spot higher than Trent was drafted. So looking at it as a whole and being able to get a couple of different players, as you said, I think value here worked out. And I don't think that this was a bad trade for the Chiefs in terms of the value they got back for Trent McDuffie.
I think this is a trade they had to make. Maybe they could have gotten more. Maybe they could have gotten something from Dallas if they waited a little bit longer. But you get this deal done before free agency, it frees up your salary cap for free agency. The other reality of this is that you still haven't done any of your EFRAs. You haven't done any of your restricted free agents. You haven't done anything with Travis Kelce. You haven't tried to sign any of your own guys. All of that plays into why they had to make this move. I don't think they're done either. That's another thing. When we're sitting here looking at this, there are reports which I want to be clear. I don't necessarily believe that they're going to be doing the Chris Jones deal that somebody has reported. I will wait and see somebody with a little bit more clout when it comes to the chief organization say that. But if they do make that move, I'll also be very clear on this. If they make a move with Chris Jones's contract to free up $20 million, they're going to be major players in free agency. And it is a complete shift as to how they've built this team in the past. If they don't, that's different. But if they make a move with Chris Jones's contract, that says something because it really is going to hurt them in the future.
Yeah, that would be a significant shift.
Ever wanted to experience the NBA Finals live and in person? FanDuel is giving you the chance to turn that dream into a reality with their NBA sweepstakes. Here's how it works. Use your profit boost on an NBA future, and you'll automatically be entered for a shot to win an NBA Finals trip for two. That's right, flights, tickets, the whole experience. If you're already looking at the board and thinking about which team can make a deep run, this is the perfect time to lock it in. Not only can your pick cash, but you could also go to the NBA Finals along with it. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Use your profit boost on an NBA future and get entered for your chance to win a trip to the NBA Finals. Play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA.
Welcome back to the Big 3 and 30 NFL. The Patriots announced the release of wide receiver Stefon Diggs yesterday, ending his tenure in New England after just one season. Locked On Patriots host Nick Cattles goes over the move.
Adam Schefter reporting on Wednesday. The Pats informed Diggs he is going to be released next week. Tom Pelissero of the NFL Network posted Diggs had an additional $6 million set to become fully guaranteed next week, Friday. The Patriots did not want to drag him along and informed him they're moving on, giving him a jump start. He'll be released next Wednesday. This was the March 13th guarantee that we had been talking about and that we thought would create some urgency about the situation. As we had mentioned in prior podcasts, this $6 million guarantee by March 13th, if the Patriots could not rework a deal with Diggs, it would not be a surprise whatsoever if they waved goodbye to Steph Diggs. And that's what they did. Loss Talk Pats, Carlos Lopez posted, if the Pats had kept Diggs, his cap hit would have gone from $10.5 million this past season to $26.5 million in 2026. New England cut ties with Diggs solely to financial reasons, and that was from Mike Reese. And they will now save more than $16 million against the cap. Let's start here. Diggs was terrific in 2025. He exceeded all expectations. He exceeded my expectations, your expectations, and probably even his own expectations. I mean, this was a guy coming off ACL surgery in his 30s. You figure if he could catch 55, 60, 65 footballs, that would be a tremendous year. He broke 1,000 yards. He was way better than I ever thought he would be in 2025. He was productive, and he also was a surprise leader on the team and a surprise leader in that wide receiver room. How many big catches did Diggs have in 2025? Third down catches, fourth down catches, the touchdown catch against the Houston Texans in the playoffs. He had so many big catches this past year for Drake May. But the fact is, he was never going to play on that contract. It just was not going to happen. We had been talking about it for weeks. $20.6 million on the base. Too much for Diggs. $6.5 million cap hit. Too much for Diggs. As great as he was in 2025, he also has lots of baggage. The court case. We have no idea what's going to happen to Diggs legally. No clue. Still hovering over him. He turns 33 years old in November. No spring chicken, my friends. And he has faded, right? I mean, he faded in the playoffs. He faded towards the end of the season. He was not the same guy. Now, I don't think that was all on Diggs. I do think he was open from time to time in the playoffs, and Drake May just did not find him, but he was not the same guy week in and week out. He'd have a big week, then he'd have a couple of weeks where I wouldn't say he went missing, but he wasn't the same guy. He wasn't giving you the same level of production. He couldn't necessarily beat double teams. So when you look at where he's at now and you have to project what he's going to do in 2026, I don't know if he's going to be the same guy next year. I have no idea. You usually don't get better at professional sports as you get older. So the court case, the age, the fact that he faded towards the latter part of last season. I also saw some frustration from Stefon Diggs on the field as the year went on in the playoffs, multiple times kind of putting his hands up, wondering why he wasn't getting the football, being a little bit more demonstrative than that from time to time. So it felt like the frustration was starting to build. And as we've seen with Diggs in the past, you know, that first year and a half, everything is great. His relationship with the quarterback is awesome. He's saying all the right things. And then the frustration builds and builds and builds and builds. And you get to a certain point with Stefon Diggs where you got to say to yourself, is he actually doing more harm than good for us? That's what happened in Minnesota. That's what happened in Buffalo. Not so much Houston. That was the injury situation. But as you saw Diggs start to fade somewhat towards the latter part of the year, and then you saw his frustration start to build, I don't think it's crazy for the Patriots to look at that and say, all right, are we dealing with a little bit too much here? And is this going to turn ugly eventually in 2026? And if we bring somebody else in and Stefon Diggs is not getting as many targets as he did this past year, is that going to create even more frustration? So on top of the money, I do think there were legitimate questions about Diggs on the field and how much he was really going to be worth in 2026. Of course, now the Patriots have a serious need at wide receiver. Right now, your wide receiver depth chart is Kayshon Boutte, Mac Hollins, Kyle Williams, Pop Douglas, Efton Chisholm. And I'm just going to guess here. There is no way that Mike Vrabel, Elliott Wolf, Ryan Cowden, there's no way that the Pats are going to walk into 2026 with Drake May as their quarterback, with those wide receivers currently on the roster to go along with a draft pick or two. I absolutely believe they have a plan. Which leads me to the question of whether or not are they big game hunting. Reportedly, they are. Jordan Schultz posted, per sources, the Patriots have been in on the big names on the wide receiver free agent market and are believed to be prepared to spend big. Alec Pierce is among the names they've been eyeing. The trade market is also an option. More from Schultz. The Patriots made several attempts last year to land a wide receiver and couldn't, including a big offer for Chris Godwin. They did add Diggs, of course, but you get the point. This year, coming off a Super Bowl, and with everyone realizing what Drake May is, there's a belief they can have their pick on the wide receiver market. Players will want them. Now, there's a belief. If that's the Patriots' belief, great. Does it end up actually happening? I don't know. But it's obvious. The Patriots believe that they can walk into free agency with the cap space that they have and the quarterback that just played great during this past season, runner-up MVP. They feel like they can walk into free agency, put money on the table, and a wide receiver will be much more excited and open to the idea of joining the Patriots. And they will be more excited than they were this past season. And you go back to last offseason. One more thing I do wonder. Did the Patriots just put pressure on Philadelphia? if Philadelphia is trying to hold off on an A.J. Brown trade and they're trying to get everything they can get from the Patriots, did the Patriots just put pressure on the Eagles because they just created $16+ more million in cap space? And Alec Pierce did not get tagged by the Colts. And Alec Pierce, he goes on to programming today, I think it was Up and Adams, and says that he owes it to himself to check out the free agency market, to go into free agency. And so now if you're the Eagles and you thought you had the Patriots over a barrel, did the Patriots just change the math? And does this create more urgency from Philly to get that deal done? Because now you just opened up the cap space. You don't have the cap hit from Diggs with the, and what's going on with him. So now you can put A.J. Brown in that Diggs spot and pay A.J. Brown the money. Just food for thought. I do wonder if this puts more pressure on Philly before free agency hits on Monday, because the Patriots can now tell Howie Roseman, look, we can either get this deal done or we're going to go sign a big name free agent and we're out of this thing. No more conversations. We're cutting it off. Interesting.
That's all for today's Big 3 in 30 NFL. If you follow basketball or college sports, the Big 3 in 30 has shows for the biggest news in the NBA and on campus going up every week just like this one. Just search the Big 3 in 30 NBA or the Big 3 in 30 college wherever you're listening or watching now. Thanks again for tuning in to the Big 3 in 30 NFL.